Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Jake Botel Sports Experience. A couple of days later than I would have liked, had some real life stuff, some real world things get in the way of podcasting and YouTubing world. So delivering for you today a recap of all of the action from the Hurling Championship weekend just gone. We'll run through the results for you from the Joe McDonough Cup, from the Leinster and Munster Championships, with a focus on the three games that I was able to watch: Wexford v Galway, Waterford and Tipperary, and Cork and Limerick, the rematch of last year's All-Ireland final. If you'd be so kind while you watch along, hit that subscribe button. It sends good vibes your way and helps me to grow the channel, so it's a win-win, baby. All right, let's get into it. We'll start today looking at the game that was played down at Chadwick's Wexford Park, between Wexford and Galway. An interesting matchup, this one, on the Saturday. Not the sexiest matchup of hurling all weekend, but I've heard a few people sort of being a bit negative about the quality of hurling and this sort of thing. I really enjoyed this game. It was a fun crowd to listen to. They were really behind the home side. It was tough sort of hurling. I enjoyed it, but I enjoy most hurling matches. I enjoy most sports matches. It's pretty hard for me to find one that I can't find something to enjoy. Galway got out of the gate like a house on fire. They were winning everything, breaking the 50-50 balls their way, turning Wexford over. Wexford could get nothing going up forward. Absolutely nothing. And it was all Galway in terms of the possession, in terms of the tackling. It was something like 26-9, the tackles inside the first 20 minutes of this game. Henry Shefflin really had his side up and about and looking to absolutely obliterate Wexford in the opening period of play. Unfortunately for Galway, they just couldn't put all of their hard work, they couldn't translate their hard work around the ground into scores over the bar. They really were wayward. They had something like 10, it was at least 10 shots wide in that first half. They could have been absolutely out of sight by half time. As it was, Wexford rallied a little towards the end of the first half. They went into the sheds trailing just 8-13. Now, a 5-point gap in some games would feel really significant and like one team had buried the other. Not so in this game. Galway could have been double-digit points out in front by half-time. And it was a shame for them that they weren't, because their opponent, Wexford, came out and fired off 4 of the first 6 points of the second half. And from there, the crowd down at Chadwick's, they were behind the purple and yellow, and Wexford were storming back into the contest. They brought Lee Chin on in the 47th minute, and he chimed in with 5 points of his own, including the point from a 65 that ended up drawing the game right at the death. So he made a massive impact in this game. But really, Galway, it looked like they just hit the wall in the second half, and one of those walls that they hit, I guess, was purple and yellow. Wexford really lifted. I don't know if you could say they lifted their intensity. I didn't feel like their hurling lacked intensity in the first half. It was just that Galway were winning all those 50-50 battles. Wexford probably executed getting the ball to their forwards a lot better in the second half. I felt like Rory O'Connor and Connor McDonald, when they actually had a chance to get the ball in their hand or on the hurley in the first half, looked dangerous. They just got a lot more service in the second half. And those two players, O'Connor and McDonald, really contributed to putting Galway's defence under pressure. That was something I noticed a lot when Wexford really went at Galway's defenders. Galway's defenders looked a little over anxious, that they gave away fouls pretty easily. They looked, there's that, I guess, a distinction between when your team is on the back foot, you can still defend resolutely. It felt like there was a little bit of panic crept in for Galway when Wexford went at them, and there were frees to be won for the home side. Galway, even though Wexford stormed back, still would have been disappointed. They led by 6 points with 10 minutes remaining, I'd say, off the top of my head. They conceded a goal. Connor McDonald, a really beautiful ground strike after he attempted to kick it. Ball dropped to the ground, so he hit it from the angle. Just a really beautiful strike and well deserved for all of his efforts across the day. Lee Chin ends up tying the game with a 65 right at the end. So the game ends in a draw, 119 to 119 at the end. Rory O'Connor, the top scorer for Wexford with 6 points. Connor McDonald chiming in with 1 goal, 2. And Lee Chin with the 5 points after playing only, sort of 25 minutes of the match. He looked really dangerous. He looked really up for making an impact in the contest. For Galway, it was Connor Cooney who scored 8. Monaghan scored 4. And Concannon 1 goal, 1. I'll just give you a quick look at all of the scorers here for Wexford. That's the full rundown. O'Connor with 6, McDonald 1, 2, Chin 5, Foley with 2, and singles all to Mark Fanning, Donahue, Flood, and Dunbar. And for Galway, it was, as I said, Connor Cooney with 8, Monaghan with 4, Concannon 1 goal, 1, 2 each to Whelan and Joe Cooney, and singles to Morrissey and Mannion. I think Rory O'Connor, probably my man of the match. Could have gone either way between him and McDonald. Other people might argue that there were other players that deserved it around the ground. I just thought those two kept fighting even when Wexford were seemingly out of it. And once Wexford were on the march back in, they did a lot of work to win frees, to put scores over the bar and bring the side back in. I guess you could have given it to Lee Chin as well. But I thought when the times were really tough, Rory O'Connor was still trying to make things happen with very limited supply. So Rory O'Connor, he's my man of the match. Sound off in the comments with who you think should have been man of the match if I got it wrong. Let's have a look at what's coming up this weekend for Wexford. Wexford will host their second game in a row, this time against Dublin. Now, Dublin squeaked over the line in week 1 by 2 points against a much improved Laois team. So this Wexford side, I think they'll be backing themselves to secure a win and climb over the Dubs in the Leinster standings, especially if they can feed that forward line pairing of O'Connor and McDonald from the start. I'm not sure if Lee Chin is going to start the game or if he's going to come on as a super impact sub again. But whatever the case, I think this is a really important game for the makeup of how the Leinster Championship positioning will unfold. So that is what's next ahead for Wexford. They play Dublin. So this weekend, Galway will host Westmeath, who gave a spirited effort against Kilkenny in week 1. Unfortunately, the spirited effort didn't show up on the scoreboard. Kilkenny still marching away with a 5-23 to 119 victory. I think Galway need to sharpen up what they did this week when they come in and play Westmeath. I think they're going to be looking ahead too to the following game against Shefflin's former side, Kilkenny. They need to be switched on, Galway, because they need to really fine-tune everything they want to get right against Kilkenny this week against Westmeath. You can't have a sleepy effort here and mess around with a team like Westmeath when you need to be hitting top form next week against Kilkenny. So next up, it is Waterford v Tipperary. This game was played down in Walsh Park in Waterford in front of a really parochial home crowd for the Dacia. They were packed in like sardines. They were loud and they were proud, and their side got off to a beautiful start. They put 4 of their opening points over the bar. Waterford, Tipperary miss 3 on the trot, and as a Tipperary supporter, I was sitting there at 11:05 at night going, this could be over real quick if play continues to run this way. But to their credit, the Premier County, written off by pretty much everyone and their dog, stormed back, and they found some physicality, they found some fire, they found, the good hurling I expect from Tipperary. I expect Tipperary to come out and hurl well in the skills department. What I was unsure of was Waterford looked really physical in the league. They really bullied Cork in the final, and they're an aggressive come at you sort of side. I was interested to see how this transitioning Tipperary team responded, and boy oh boy, they responded in kind. They were physical, they were daring, they mixed up a nice sort of fusion of short game and long game, using the ball by hand to break the lines, and then delivering some really nice long sideline balls as well into the corner forwards, which allowed them to work it back centrally. There was a lot of nice stuff for Tipperary. And they really stormed back into it. Mark Keogh scored a goal that brought the margin back to 4-3. And from there, the rest of the first half was a lot of good hurling from Tipperary. They ended up taking a halftime lead of 112 to 11 points. So up by 4 at the break. And as a Tipperary fan, you sort of start to let yourself dream maybe a little bit. Oh, if we can score the first couple of points here, and maybe the home crowd starts to get a little bit restless, and Waterford just a touch off their game, and maybe we can drive on and get the 2 points in the bag, and we're on a bit of a run. Waterford, to their absolute credit, came out and blew the doors off Tipperary in the first 10 minutes of the second half. They came out and rattled off 2 goals, 6 to 2 points. And I mean, that there should have effectively ended the contest in a lot of ways. It was Kylie scoring a goal. It was Desi Hutchinson scoring a goal. It was a little snapshot of what Waterford did to Wexford and then Cork in the semi-final and the final of the league. It was exactly that sort of thing. Just daring, aggressive, creative, fearless hurling. The sort of hurling you love to watch. The sort of hurling that Tipperary delivered in the first half. But this Waterford team are so consistent. They are such a humming engine under Liam Cahill's guidance. And they really put Tip to the sword in the opening part of the second half. Now, credit to Tipperary. We could have faded away, and we didn't. We responded. We brought the margin right back. Mark Keogh scored his second goal of the afternoon, amongst a few other points. And it was 1 point in it with about 5 minutes to go. So anybody's game. Credit once again to Waterford, who were clinical when it really mattered at the end. Tipperary had multiple chances to tie the game up and take the lead, and they spurned those opportunities. Waterford did not. They were clinical. They finished the job. Waterford running out in the end, 224 to 220 victors over Tipperary. Stephen Bennett scoring 10 points. Desi Hutchinson won 3. Curran with 4. Noel McGrath for Tipperary, absolute blinder of a game, put 6 points over. Mark Keogh, it's oft been said in reports about this game already, sort of came of age. He looked really dangerous up there. He was the central focus, really, and the goal threat for Tip. He scores 2 goals. And Jason Ford, quiet afternoon for Jason Ford with just the 4 points. I'll run you through the scorers here for Waterford in full. It was Bennett with the 10 points. Hutchinson, 1 goal, 3. Curran with 4. Kylie, 1 goal, 2 points each to McNulty, Barron, and Gleeson. Gleeson made a good impact once he came on in the second half as well. And a single for Prendergast. For Tipperary, it was Noel McGrath with the 6. Mark Keogh with 2 goals. Jason Ford with 4. Double points to Michael Breen, McCormick, and Morris, and 1 point each to Heffernan, Stakelum, Bow, and Hogan. I'm going to give Desi Hutchinson my man of the match. Could have gone with Stephen Bennett, who scored the 10. And Waterford had players all around the ground, but I just thought Desi Hutchinson was a bit of that fire starter for Waterford at the start of that second half when they needed that lift to try and, shake Tipperary loose. I thought Desi Hutchinson was just so key to that. He was so key to their performance against Wexford in the semi-final of the league. And it was the same sort of stuff here. If he was not scoring, he's creating for others. So I put Desi Hutchinson as my man of the match. You can tell me in the comments how wrong I am and who should have been the man of the match. All right, this weekend for Waterford, the Dayshirt now turn for their biggest challenge of 2022 as they travel to play the reigning All-Ireland champions Limerick. The men in green and white were breathing fire against Cork. We're about to get to that game. So this will be a true championship acid test of exactly where Liam Cahill's men are in terms of the All-Ireland pecking order. Like, what a game to be gifted in week 2 of the Munster Hurling Championship. Essentially, the two teams that most people would be backing right now to make an All-Ireland final: Waterford, the reigning league champs; Limerick, the back-to-back reigning All-Ireland champs. In Limerick, this is going into the Dragons' den for Waterford. This is the big test. If they win this match, good luck keeping that All-Ireland lid on, Dacia fans. For Tipperary this weekend, the Premier County return home to face a Clare team that sat out week 1 on a bye, and that will have been a welcome extra week of rest for Clare, who have gone into this season missing several key starters to injury, some of them who they won't see this season, but some who will be coming back. Tony Kelly, a massive name among those players. Tip will look to build on what was a vastly impressive first performance of championship hurling under Colm Bonner, in a game that figures as being key in deciding which of these two sides might be able to fancy themselves to sneak in as the third team in Munster to the All-Ireland finals. This is the game both of these teams will be targeting to kickstart their run to try and make that top 3 in the Munster Hurling Championship. And now we get to our third game recap. Cork v Limerick. Avert your eyes, Cork fans. Tough day at the office here for the Rebels and their fans. As Limerick came to town, Cork were looking, after beating Limerick in the league campaign this season pretty soundly down in Limerick, they were looking to deliver a big result, Cork, in championship hurling, the format that counts, and it looked promising early on. It really did. Cork started off rattling off 1-2 before Limerick had even scored, and you thought, 5 points to nothing, maybe this is the day. Maybe Cork are going to make their stand. More than just make a stand, maybe they're going to make their charge. But Limerick, as Limerick are wont to do, came storming right back. Limerick's first score came up after 7 minutes, and soon Diarmaid Burns was amongst the action. He rattled off 3 points over the bar. Barry Nash got in on the action. Kyle Hayes sank the ball into the back of the net after storming in from the left. And suddenly the green roar was up and about. It was the Limerick fans. After Cork's fans had been up and about early, cheering their own team and jeering the visitors, you could suddenly hear this surge of that green tide all around the stadium. And you could feel that things were going horribly wrong for the Rebels. They turned the ball over, which allowed Aaron Galland to get in on goal and bury a shot into the back of the net. Cork at 6s and 7s as Limerick raised their pressure game. Suddenly there was that familiar sight of one Cork player with the ball surrounded by 3 pressuring players from Limerick. Another Limerick player cutting off the passing options. It was just immense, and it was everything that we saw all last season in championship from Limerick. Just ferocious pressure all around the ground whenever Cork got the ball in possession, wanted some time to do something with it. Limerick were on them. Limerick took a 2-9 to 1-8 lead at the half. The second half started brightly enough for Cork. They rattled off the first 4 points, but Limerick came right back and answered with 5 consecutive points of their own. And from there, really, it was all she wrote as Limerick stormed to a 16-9 second half to run out 225 to 117 winners. It was Aaron Galland, 1-4. It was Diarmaid Burns, 6 points. It was Gerard Hegarty, 3 points. It was Kyle Hayes with a goal. For Cork, it was Patrick Horgan, 9 points. Shane Kingston with a goal. Robbie O'Flynn with 2 points. And Barrett with 2. I've named Diarmaid Burns my man of the match, not just for his ability to sink those, beautiful, deep frees, but also his work in defense, rising to pluck balls out of the air. Just a brilliant all-round effort, both in the back line and then on the score sheet. He was just immense. But what can we say about this game strategically? It's a really tough one. I think it should be a tough one for Cork fans to swallow, because if the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, then the Rebels could be accused of being insane, because the same approach that got broken down last season in Championship by Limerick in the All Ireland final was broken down in exactly the same way. The same stuff that was broken down against Waterford in the league final was broken down again. The trying to work the ball, run the ball through the lines of a team that is pressuring like rabid wolves. It just doesn't work. And it was turned over again and again. It cost them the Aaron Galland goal. It cost them a host of other scores as well. And really, it cost them scores, and it cost them their confidence as well. In my opinion, as it broke down, you could just see heads start to drop. Here we go again. The same result happening all over again. Really tough. A really tough result for Cork, because they said after the Waterford game that they weren't, well, we're not going to, throw the baby out with the bathwater, essentially. We're not going to tear up the game plan. And okay, that's fine. But here we are again with the same questions being asked of the style. They were bullied for swathes of this game by Limerick, who just brought a more physical, pressurized style of hurling that Cork just couldn't match. Cork couldn't win the 50-50 balls. Cork did some really nice things, don't get me wrong, when they did find some time and were able to get their hurlers in a little bit of space to finish a chance. There's no doubt about that they are a skilled and talented group. But you've got to be able to win the ball as well. And Limerick did that all over the park. As I said, there were so many moments that just echoed last season, where there's one Cork player surrounded by 3 or 4 Limerick tacklers, and there's just no way out, and it's turned over and it's back the other way, and Limerick can hurt you in so many ways. If it's not Kyle Hayes storming in for a goal, if it's not Aaron Galland, if it's not Diarmaid Burns launching points, have a look at some of these scorers for Limerick. They put 12 different names on the score sheet in this match. You had Aaron Galland 1-4. You had Diarmaid Burns with 6. Kyle Hayes 1 goal. Geroid Hegarty 3 points. Lynch 2. Nash 2. O'Neill 2. And singles to both the Morrisseys, Declan Hannon, Ryan and Reedy. 12 names on the scoreboard for Limerick from various different positions and various different places on the ground. For Cork, it was Patrick Horgan with the 9. It was Kingston with 1 goal. It was 2 each for O'Flynn, Barrett, Lahan, and 1 each to Fitzgibbon and O'Mahony. A note too on Limerick. I've gone on and on ad nauseum about their physicality and their ability to bring pressure, their fire for the contest, their ferocity. It should not be lost on anybody that this is an extremely talented hurling side. Like, their actual stick work. I can't remember the player, but there was one where it was a player had it on the near sideline and just hammered, a pass off the hurley, I believe it was, back to the middle of the ground, a little bit high probably for his teammate. And his teammate just stuck the hurley up in the air and just brought the ball gracefully down into his hand, and they were able to move forward. There's nothing bouncing off the stick. They are supremely skilled. Everyone's looking at, I think it was Cian Lynch, who scored the point from his knee with the broken hurl. They are supremely talented. Like, an awful lot gets made of them as this physical bullying, they play right on the edge kind of team. They are supremely skilled as watch. They are a beautiful team to watch when they're up and about. It pains me as a Tipperary man to know, that we're still a way off their pace, but by God, they are fun to watch. They really are. If you can take, your own team's goggles off for 5 minutes and enjoy this team's hurling, they are a remarkable, remarkable team to watch, and that translates across sports too. Sometimes you just watch a team. It could be, football. It could be Aussie rules. It could be in the NFL. It could be hurling. Whatever it is, sometimes you just come across a team that are, in the rhythm of building a dynasty, and they're just remarkable to watch. And this Limerick team is remarkable to watch. Let's look ahead then to this weekend. This bye might come at a really good time for Cork. You'd imagine there's some soul searching to be done by the Rebels, despite Kieran Kingston saying after the match that sort of the same stuff about Waterford. We're not going to rip up the game plan. They've now been turned over twice in 2 weeks, really, by Waterford in the league final and by Limerick in this first game of the Munster Championship. Those are both opponents that this team could likely be facing further down the line as they compete for an All-Ireland. That's assuming, of course, that Cork hold their water and make it out of Munster, which I think they should. But Tipperary hurled really well today, and we don't really know what we're going to see out of Clare yet. They face Waterford again in week 3, Cork. This is a crucial couple of weeks for the Rebels and their chance at trying to vindicate last season's loss with a win in the All-Ireland Championship this year. They have to beat Waterford, I think, for their own confidence as much as anything. If you get doused by Waterford in the league final, if you get demolished by Limerick in week 1 of the championship, and then Waterford goes and beats you again, hurling, as much as any sport, seems to be very much built around the mentality of players. If they can't get over Waterford, I wonder how the rest of this campaign turns out in their final 2 games, because that would be a hammer blow from where I'm sitting as a novice hurling supporter, but someone who's watched an awful lot of sport, and I've wasted an awful lot of my time watching other people run around on sports fields. For Limerick this weekend, they return home, speaking of Waterford, to host Waterford. This is a glorious opportunity for the reigning champions to lay down a huge marker in their first 2 weeks of meaningful hurling. If they can swat down both of the teams who are most fancied to take them down in this campaign, I mean, the Dacia, I think, will present a more physical task for Limerick than what Cork did this week. But one feels that this Limerick team relishes when these challenges come up. I'm a Geelong Cats supporter in the Aussie rules, and when the Cats were really, really humming, the Cats loved when teams came up who were challenging. It was this opportunity to sharpen themselves against really hungry and skilled opponents. And I feel like this Limerick team is exactly the same. I don't think they'll be anxious about facing anyone. I think they'll welcome Waterford with the result they've just got, with the result Waterford have just got. This is a great opportunity for Limerick to try and knock Waterford back a peg. It's not a bad opportunity for Waterford to show where they're at either. So we're really lucky to have this game in week 2 of the Hurling Championship. Before I get out of here, let's get you up to speed with Joe McDonough Cup and the rest of the Leinster and Munster results. So, Kerry lose to Down 19 to 119. Down's first victory in Kerry since dinosaurs roamed the earth, I've been led to believe. Meath were defeated heavily by Carlo. Carlo 430 to 17. Antrim squeaked by Offaly in an absolute ripper of a contest. 322 to 224. That leaves Carlo out on top of the Joe McDonough Cup on 2 points with a plus 25 point differential. Down and Antrim in second and third on 2 points. You've got Offaly and Kerry and Meath all on 0. The Leinster Championship, we covered Wexford and Galway's draw. So we also had Westmeath losing 119 to 523 to Kilkenny. Good result for the Cats to kick off their campaign. Dublin got a result against Laois in a really close game. They won by 2 points. Kilkenny on 2 points, Dublin on 2 points, but Kilkenny with a much better point differential. You've got Galway and Wexford locked on 1 point each. Laois on 0 points with minus 2 point differential. And Westmeath moored to the bottom there, 0 points and a minus 16 point differential. The Munster Championship, we covered both of those results for you. That leaves Limerick on top with 2 points and a plus 11 point differential. Waterford in second on 2 points with a plus 4 point differential. Clare didn't do themselves any harm because they didn't play a game, 0 points and an even point differential. Tipperary and Cork fighting it out there at the bottom on 0 points, but Cork with a minus 11 point differential in a close Munster Hurling Championship. That minus 11 for Cork, it'll be interesting to see how that comes back, because Tipperary, although they didn't get a result against Waterford, the fact they were able to rally reduce the damage and not lose by double digits, which could have happened when Waterford came out and blitzed them at the start of that second half. I had my concerns. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that Munster Championship plays out. Before we get out of here, here's a quick look at the GAA Go broadcasts. I thought I'd put these up with some adjusted start times for viewers around the world. So these are the games that GAA Go will be showing. They've got Wexford v Dublin. I've got the Irish time, the US time, and the Australian time there for you. We've got Limerick and Waterford, and Tipperary and Clare. So again, it's Munster Hurling Championship heavy, but some pretty good games there, some important games, all three of those. I'll be back with a fantasy hurling show for you in the next day or so as I look to adjust my lineup from week 1. That'll be good fun. You can watch me bungle that after a relatively decent first week. If you could do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, I would be forever grateful to you. Helps me grow the channel. I'll send some good vibes your way, so it's a win-win. Until next time, guys, thanks so much for watching.